This week, I want to share with you some information that I've been wanting to share for a while now, but I've been waiting until winter when we can't be outside so much. This is a topic that is going to help many of you, especially if you are just starting out. We're going to go over 5 homesteading resources that are worth having a hard copy of because they are that good. You know, the internet is great. You can get a lot of free information on there, but that's not always as convenient as it sounds, especially when you're in the middle of trying to do something. And I've always been kind of concerned, what if your smartphone or computer or tablet or however you're accessing the internet suddenly goes poof and all of your information goes with it. These are some resources that you can have on your bookshelf ready to go, and they are really good, and I'm excited to share them with you. So the first resource that I want to go through is probably the best and biggest resource, and that is the Encyclopedia of Country Living. This is actually called by a lot of people the Bible of country living, and I'm going to show you why. This book was written by a woman named Carla Emery. Carla Emery lived the life for decades, and she started writing this book in the 70s, and for the next 32 years, she added to this book and she revised this book, and it's now over 900 pages. Unfortunately, Carla passed away in 2005, but she left a legacy in this book. This is everything you'd ever want to know about building a homestead. If this is the only book you had, the only information you had, you would be able to start a homestead and thrive on the homestead. So in this book, there's a table of contents, but really the table of contents is just the sections of the book. There are many sections to this book, and each section has its own detailed table of contents. So what you're going to get in this book is anything about plants, grasses, grains, garden vegetables, herbs, trees, shrubs, vines, bushes, food preservation, all kinds. Introduction to animals, and then specifics about animals: poultry, goats, cows, home dairying, bees, rabbits, sheep, pigs, literally anything you'd want to know, right from raising them to diseases to how to maintain their health to butchering them and processing them. Everything is in this book. She even goes over how to tan the hides. She also includes information on how to live simply, how to live a frugal lifestyle, which we like because that's what we're trying to do. She also talks about other homesteading topics like making your own candles, how to make a profit from your homestead, a lot of recipes. I mean, literally anything that is associated with country living is in this book. So if you were going to choose one book from what we're going over today, this is the book that I would choose. Now, we've talked a lot, or mentioned quite a few times in our videos, about the fact that we're going to be starting to build a passive solar greenhouse. And if you go down the rabbit hole of looking for information on the internet on passive solar greenhouses, you will see that there are so many ways that you can do a passive solar greenhouse right now, and so much information out there that it's really hard to wade through everything and know how you should build your passive solar greenhouse. I encourage you to look at all the ways: the wall of peonies, the Chinese greenhouses, the deep winter greenhouses. I mean, really, there's a lot. The books that have helped us the most for what we want to do, the first one is the year-round solar greenhouse, how to design and build a net zero energy greenhouse. This one is fantastic. It goes over everything, all the materials, the types of glazing, the R values, the how to make sure that you are angling the glazing properly for your latitude. I mean, it's literally everything that you would want to know about building a passive solar greenhouse. Now, when we're talking technology, a lot of these books that we're talking about today are timeless books, because things that you do on a homestead are things that have been going on for decades. You just need to learn how to do them. But when it comes to things like technology, then you need to start looking at some more recent books. And this one is fairly recent. It's 2016, but the principles and the materials that are discussed are things that are being used right now in passive solar greenhouses. So this is an excellent book. Now, I mentioned a type of greenhouse called the Chinese greenhouse. If you haven't looked up information on the Chinese greenhouse, you need to do it if you're thinking about doing passive solar. It is an option that also requires no extra heat for your greenhouse to grow year round, much like a lot of the passive solar designs, and it is a passive solar, but much like a lot of the other passive solar designs. And this was written in 2021. So this is like a really up-to-date book. But this gentleman he studied the Chinese greenhouses. He consulted with one of the world-known authorities on Chinese greenhouses, and he built his own. He lives in Missouri, so he has some pretty cold winters, but this man's name is Dan, and I think it's pronounced Chiras. I'm not sure, but this gentleman has been very successful in building his own version of the Chinese greenhouse. And I would highly recommend that these two books be read, because this one also shows you exactly how he built his Chinese greenhouse. So those are two great books if you're thinking about growing your food year-round in a colder climate. The next resource is called Gardening Know-How. If you are looking for a book that tells you start to finish everything that you would want to know about gardening and different plants and how to grow them and how to harvest them, Gardening Know-How is a great book to have. I do not have my copy currently with me. I've loaned it to a friend, but here is the book online. Now, this book is also a very large, comprehensive book. So if you're going to start gardening or you're already gardening, it will tell you how to manage the whole thing, how to build different raised beds, how to container garden, how to do just anything with gardening. And so I would highly recommend this book as well. The next publication is a magazine, but this magazine, Backwoods Home Magazine, is one that we have enjoyed receiving. It comes out 4 times a year. It's not costly. I think it's like $25 for the whole year. But this magazine has just like a random assortment of homesteading topics. Every time you get it, there's always something interesting in it. And I always learn something from looking through this magazine. For instance, the latest magazine, as of making of this video, talks about broody hens, the world of spices, installing a wood stove, and backyard maple syrup. They also have a section on firearms and knives and things like that, so that's something that Dan enjoys. And then they always have a section called Ask Jackie. And Jackie is Jackie Clay. Jackie has lived the life for decades. She built a homestead from scratch. She lives off grid, and she is just a wealth of information about anything regarding homesteading, including preserving food, including animals, all of that. And there's quite an extensive section where she answers reader questions, and those are always really interesting questions. They also publish some books that have all of Jackie Clay's information, her preserving food and different things, different topics that she is an expert in. They also, remember we talked about how homesteading skills are timeless unless you're talking about technology. They also sell their anthologies, which is an entire year in one book, and you can buy any of their years. They also will take, as I said before, specific topics and put all their articles into a book, and you can purchase that book. And one of the books that we have that they have gathered all their articles for is called Chickens. And it has literally all the topics about chickens that you would want to know. So this is just a really fun magazine to get, as well as a learning tool. A big part of homesteading is preserving the food that you produce. There are a lot of books out there regarding home canning, but I find myself always falling back to this book, especially in the heat of the moment when you're trying to do something. This is called the Ball Blue Book. There are 37 editions of this book. It's often considered the gold standard for, home canning and preserving. This is not the most recent edition. I'm going to be purchasing the most recent edition, which came out in 2015. And they have come out with, Ball has come out with a couple of recent books on canning. Some of them have mixed, one of them in particular has mixed reviews. People say it's kind of bougie, gourmet foods and using wine and all that kind of stuff. If you're into that, you might want to check it out. But this book is so great to have around, and it looks like a magazine, and some people say it is a magazine, but it's the most recent one has about 200 pages and like 500 recipes. But the great thing about this book is that it has all of the basics, and especially if you're a beginning canner and you're just starting out, it has all of the basics of water bath canning, all the basics of pressure canning. It has charts, it has, time charts and all kinds of information in this really concise section. And then, of course, there's always tons of recipes. You can see I've got notations up here, and my mother is even marked in this book. So this one is kind of sentimental to me. But also, the other thing I like about the Ball Blue Book is it's made on glossy paper. So if you were to spill on this book when you were canning and you wiped it off right away, no harm, no foul. If it wasn't glossy, you wouldn't be able to do that. So this is a great book to have around for canning. Do not buy it online. I saw it on Amazon for like $19.99 or something like that, which is a crazy price. You can find this even at Walmart sometimes. You can find it at hardware stores where they sell canning equipment. You can find this locally somewhere, and it's like $10. It's kind of a ripoff to try to buy it online. If you are looking for some free information on food preservation, there is a link. I'm going to put it down in the description, but I have an article on our website that is for free homesteading resources, ebooks, and PDFs, things that you don't have to sign up for a newsletter for. And in those links, there is a link to the USDA's guides for food preservation. Those you can literally go and download the PDF or print it out for everything: fermenting, drying, dehydrating, canning, just go check it out, because those guides are really great, and everything in there has been, of course, tested and safe. So check out the USDA guides on our linked to on our website. And if you do fall down the rabbit hole on the passive solar greenhouses, there is a link in there also to some work being done by the University of Minnesota that has done extensive research on deep winter greenhouses, including farm scale construction plans and everything. And there is a link to that in the article as well, all for free. I hope that you have found this video on some homesteading publications that we use helpful. If you have something that you swear by, please leave it in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, please consider subscribing to our channel. Next week, our video is on processing something that you can use for cooking, baking, furniture polish, soap making, all kinds of uses for this product, so you won't want to miss it. We hope you have a great week, and as always, we'll see you next time.